Hello, everyone. Welcome to IT Tech Talk. I'm your host, Joel Ward, and with me again is Tiffany Hanner. Tiffany, how are you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm good. Just trying to wrap up the work week and get everything done that I need to get done. But I want to jump right into this. We've successfully published a second book. I don't know if we've
Yes.
actually talked about it on. I think we did talk about it before, but like we successfully published a second book called "Keeping Faith in World of Hardships." We have the first book called "A Successful Future Isn't Just Written." And on another note, something really cool has happened. You have started a podcast called She is Resilient. Um,
Yes.
would you like to talk a little bit about that and give the listeners, my listeners, a little background into it and where they can find it?
Yeah. So right now I'm working on getting it on Apple Podcasts, but so far it's on Spotify, Audible, and Amazon Music, and of course Podbean, which is where I've done it through. But the main reason that I started this podcast was I had a longing on my heart to do it because I'm very avid on mental health, body positivity, all that good stuff. So, and I've struggled with my fair share of like mental health. I've battled eating disorder, depression, anxiety, all things like that. So it was only fitting that I feel like I can be able to talk about this topic. And the whole She is Resilient came about is because I have been resilient through it all. And I'm hoping that I can find, help other people find their resilience in it.
Awesome. No, I listened to your first episode because I was really excited about the launch of this podcast. And my first impressions for those listening, Tiffany did a wonderful job in telling her story and in a way that literally it's very emotional and it's up and down like how her life went and it's by far like I don't listen to many podcasts that are like like that, but her just take on mental health and how she's done her life through it is just such a good challenging listen. So if you're looking for a challenge and you're looking for something to challenge your mental, like you're going through some stuff mentally or you're going through some stuff just in general, I challenge you to read our book and listen to her podcast because from what I'm hearing from the book and the podcast, people who have I recommended the podcast to are they're saying, "Oh my goodness, like she challenged me to do this in my life," or the book challenged me to do that in my life. And even our first book has challenged people to change their lifestyle, to change how they view personal success. So I'm not trying to brag. Neither one of us are trying to brag, but we have, successfully, given people the tools they need to change their life and change things in their life. My podcast doesn't do that as much as what her podcast is doing. I mainly just reach out to entrepreneurs and give people the advice they need to get their business started. But Tiffany's, definitely give it a check. Like, look it up, do it. It's on Spotify, as you said, Amazon Music. And where else did you say? You said Amazon Music,
Podbean and
Podbean,
Audible.
and Audible. Yeah, definitely check it out. It is definitely worth the time to listen to. It's not that long of an episode, but when she comes out with her next episode, I'm really excited to hear it. Tiffany, we talk a lot about our books and stuff, and how we viewed success and how we've kept our faith, and that's been a great stepping stone in our friendship and stuff. And a lot of people who have heard the podcast before and heard us talk about our book and about our success and stuff, they view us as a team that works together on collaborations, and they see us as people who are not just like public figures on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. They see us as real people. They see us, from the comments I get from people who have messaged me about you and me and our collaborations, and just this overall responses is we, before I, met you, when I was like basically checking you out on Instagram to see if you were going to go on my show, and we were talking, I viewed you as a real person. Like, you weren't this fake like model. Like, you cared about mental health, you cared about body positivity, you cared about all that stuff, and it's definitely showed in your work. People who've read the book who have said like, oh my goodness, like her testimony and stuff is just phenomenal, and she actually cares about the people she's reaching out to. So Tiffany, I don't want to take too much of the time on my own, but give the listeners, just an overview again, of what your take is on body positivity and mental health, and what it means to you, and why you promote it so much.
So, growing up, I think I spoke on this a little bit, but I have a pretty large following on Instagram, and it wasn't always like this. Growing up, I didn't have the public figures in my life that were curvier, normal bodies. I was always chasing that perfect Barbie model body that was not it wasn't even achievable, not for most people. So whenever I started getting bigger on Instagram and I started very much growing, that's something I've always stood for because, still to this day, I am not a size 2. And there's nothing wrong with a size 2 or skinny women, but normal bodies is the reason I am so body positive because there's so many women that hate themselves because they don't look like what they think they should or what the magazines, the fashion models, Victoria's Secret promotes and says this is beautiful. And that is like not realistic because everybody's beautiful or we wouldn't have been made exactly, in God's image. So, and on the mental health side, I struggled a lot. It come hand in hand with the body positivity and the whole like eating disorder and everything that all came together because at one point, I wasn't super skinny. I wasn't, this little tiny girl and I was told that, I was ugly, no one would love me, I was this that and that spiraled into a whole blown like eating disorder. And then that was followed by depression, anxiety, and that's the reason I'm very open on my mental health.
Yeah, and you and me have grown to know each other very well, and we talk on these topics a lot, and we share, phone calls, and we talk, very fondly over these topics, and it's very. I see you're very passionate about. It. I see it means a lot to you, and growing up, I was always viewed. I always wanted to just be noticed, and
Yeah.
this goes for all the guys out there who body positivity isn't just for women, it goes for
No.
guys too. Like a lot of guys out there, and I don't know if you listen to my show or you're just somebody who follows Tiffany, but it is very hard as a man who is larger size, to feel wanted because like she said, for women, it's like there's a lot of models out there now, but there's
Yeah.
not so many body positive, men because it's just not a thing yet. There's still a stigma, and the stigma is real, and it sucks. I'm not a larger guy. I'm a little on the smaller side, but I do know it's like for my friends, who are on the larger side, who are like, constantly getting dogged about their weight, and that's not
Yeah.
right. You shouldn't, back in high school, middle school, I got teased a lot. I think you and me have talked about this, and I think
Yeah.
I talked about it in my book some. I don't remember if I actually touched on it, but girls would tease me saying, oh, you got pimples all over your face, which I got stuff
Yeah.
to correct that, and once I got the stuff corrected, straightened my teeth, corrected my face, got all this new glasses, changed my style, people started noticing me. And
Yeah.
that's the worst part about it. Like for those who don't realize,
Yeah.
when you change your style, your looks, your face, your teeth, and then people start realizing who you are, that's kind of sad because they didn't notice you
Yeah.
for who you were before. And one of the things I kept doing was fighting with the underdogs. Like all the people
Yeah.
who got me to where I was, who were on my side in the beginning, who were like, no one wants us either. I stuck with them and I stayed with
Yeah.
them. And I was like, look, I'm going to be your friend regardless because, I may be popular with the people now, but that's not who I am. I am not, I like the popularity. I like being, talked to, but they don't like me for, me. They like me for what I can provide and who I am now, not for who I was then.
Yeah.
So, and I'm sure you've dealt with that, growing up, in the
Yeah.
situations you've been in, you've dealt with that. And, you know,
Yeah.
oh, sorry, what were you gonna say?
You're fine. I was gonna say that while most of my posts are geared towards women, I do try to make a point for men too because I want everyone whenever they see me, they're like, she learned to love herself, so can I. And that is like my main thing. I don't want it to be, mostly geared towards women because men are just as important. But I do get these comments all the time. I'll get a message in my Instagram and I'm set at 100,000 followers. They'll be like, "You're taking the time to message me?" Yes, I'm a real person. I'm a real person and I'm still going to treat you like a real person. I am no better than you are. So I think it's very important to always stay because I know a lot of Instagram influencers models they don't really engage with their followers and they don't really care. And I care. Of course, I get the weird DMs that I ignore, but like genuine people, I'm like I still care and I'm still the same Tiffany that I was that whenever I was like 6,000.
Yeah, and when I messaged you, I was reaching out to you to get you on the show, and I remember I was thinking to myself, I was like, she probably thinks I'm just one weird guy, just like hitting her up. And but the difference between me and those other DMs you get is my Instagram's pretty professional. I have a professional
Mhm.
links. I have all that stuff to show that I have a legit show, that all that stuff. So like I'm not trying to just but whatever. But no,
Yeah,
I when I reached out to you, I was like, this girl's like popular. There's no way. And it wasn't just because of like, your posts. Like you're gorgeous, you're popular, and you like people like your posts. And I was thinking, I was like, why would she take the time to just, go on my show? And then when you reached back out and you were so interested and you were so excited, and then we got to, we were continuing the role about getting you on the show. And then
mhm,
I know we talked about this last episode, but you wanted to go and do more, like, and we were talking about like you
yeah,
were telling me, I want to do greater things. I have these big plans, and something in the back of my heart was like, God was saying, hey, you have this book, you have Tiffany, or you have Charlene, you have Maddie, um this girl, has a story, and you're writing this book with these great females. Why don't you add her to the list? And I remember asking you, and I remember you, and I know we talked about this. I know people are gonna be like,
yeah,
we already heard this story, but it's such a great story. It's like she started crying and she was like, oh my gosh, this is a dream come true. I need to think about this
yeah,
and pray about this. And one of the things that struck me about Tiffany, and I just want to touch on this, is you said, I want to pray about this. Not many people, who I follow on Instagram, who I reach out to on Instagram, really take the time to pray about their decisions.
yeah,
They aren't very Christian stuff, and it's great. Everybody has their own views, but you took the time and you prayed about it, and you came back to me with an answer, and we wrote a very successful book. We sold 300 copies. It's great. And I haven't checked recently. I think we sold actually 5 more, the other day. But when we wrote Keeping Faith in the World of Hardships, and I read through your transcripts, or not transcripts, but I can't think, your writing, and I was just taken back by how much your faith means to you. And one of the
it
things
does.
that a lot of these Christian influencers and musicians who are up and coming in these stuff, one of the things they promote is their faith. And sometimes in on Instagram, we see what their faith is, through Instagram, through Facebook and stuff. We don't see the struggles that they face.
Yeah,
And one of the things that I like about our friendship is, and knowing that, I'm friends with you on Instagram. I see your posts and I see
yeah,
how you do struggle. We both struggle,
I
and
do
people see
very
our posts
much.
and they're like, wow, you look so happy. Your family life is great, yeah, yeah. What they don't see and what they do not hear is the struggles we face in the daily routine. So I want
Yeah.
to touch on that. When we were writing Keeping Faith in the World of Hardships, what was your mindset? What was your thoughts like when you were writing this? Where was your heart at when you were writing that part of the book?
So my whole like initial thing is, you know, I know it kind of came off as, I wanted to share my story of how, I kept going. Um, if I would have gave up whenever everything went south, I wouldn't be standing where I am. And I have a lot of people that they'll message me and they're like, "Why do you stay so positive? How do you stay so positive?" And I'm like, "Why would I dwell where I am the most miserable whenever I can keep pushing and be the happiest I've ever been?" I still have my struggles, but I can fully say that where I'm standing today is the happiest I've been in years. And that's all because, I took that pain and that hurt and I used it as stepping stones. I used that as leverage to continue going. Like the times that were supposed to be, knock me back and hurt me, I took those, and I just kept going. I kept going no matter what they said, what was said to me, what was done, the things that I faced, and I kept going. And I think that's the best thing you can do. While I'm not going to lie, I still have my very bad days. But, I read my Bible, I tune into like really Christian podcasts, worship music, self-help books, all that, and it helps so much. But until you change your mindset of, letting it defeat you, you'll always be defeated. You'll have to change that where you're like, this is not going to break me.
Yeah, and I'm actually holding a copy of the book, and I want to touch on one of the things you said, and it's this quote you put. You said, "Believing lies. At some point, we have all believed a lie about our beauty, worth, friend, job, etc." And then on the previous chapter, or previous page, you wrote a verse that I think sticks with that. It's Psalms 34:18. The Lord is close to the brokenhearted and saves those who are crushed in spirit. One of the things that I really respect about Tiffany, and for those who don't understand, we are very close now since we wrote these books, and we are actually considering writing a third book on our faith.
Yeah.
Um, one of the things I respect about her is her faith, and I get dogged all the time about my faith, and people are like, oh well, you're just you're lying to people because you're one way
Hmm.
here, and I say some things and I do some things, and yes, I I'm not 100%, but you know what, Jesus was the only one that was perfect in this world, and I'm not
Yeah.
trying to get all religious on this podcast, and that's not what we're about, but I'm not perfect, and those who
That's
judge
a big
me
part of our
are
life.
not perfect. Tiffany's not perfect. Do not
Yeah.
view us as we're trying to say we're perfect. We are broken just as much as you are, and that's what I like about Tiffany is when she opened up to me and shared her testimony, and I was like, "Look, once we're done writing this book, I was like, that's great. Like that we moved forward, we kept going, and I was like, oh my gosh, there is so much more to tell." And then I reached out to her again and said, I want to do another collaboration, just you and me on this book, and I sent her over. I think it was actually I sent you over the cover. Like I designed the
Yeah.
cover. I designed covers before I even start the book, and I said, "What do you think about this? Where do you think we can take it? And are you interested?" And I remember getting back, "Oh my gosh!" And yes, I think that's the exact words you use. I have to go
Yeah,
back
it
and message,
was.
but it was such a refreshing thing to write this book with you. Like I have majority of the book, but in your small little portions, like I'm looking at it right now. The part you wrote
Yeah.
about infertility and loss, and just your mental health journey and all the stuff you talk about in different parts of the book. um like it's you touch on some great things, and I
It's a
little
very real and raw
yeah, and
part of my
it's
life.
it's it's not this book. Actually, someone was reading it yesterday, a friend of mine. She's only on my part, and I told her, I was like, when you get to Tiffany's part, I want your thoughts. I want to hear, because she said, she's like, when I'm done with this, I'm giving it to a friend of mine because
Mhm.
they are going through some stuff, and I think this will help them. And I said, oh really? I said, that's great. I said, and she was like, just the first few minutes of reading your book, like was very eye opening. Like there was just so much that I needed to hear. So like I was really like hearing that stuff from listeners or from the show who heard we have a book, or even just like hearing it from people who read the book, or get a chance to listen to like me talk about myself. It's refreshing to hear people are like, you're so real with yourself, you're so honest. I remember in actually I'm gonna look it up in a second, but in our other book you were writing, and I remember reading, like, it's not, for those who understand, this is not a very big book, but it is a book that's worth reading. There is such great points in it. There is such great like I'm trying to think of the word, not points, but like there's such great like, wow, I'm losing the word. But when you read it, you'll see like we all have our own version of personal success. We all have something in our lives that changed us, defined us, and made us who we are. I remember reading in Tiffany's. Uh, it's not very long. She has like 2 pages.
Mine was so
Yeah,
short, the
yeah, yeah, yeah.
first.
3 pages, and the first one is very short. But she wrote in the back end of her thing. It says never one. It's a point she made. Never give up. Pray for your future. Do it even if you're scared. Be authentically you. Strive only to make yourself proud. When all else fails, get up, try again. Get up and try again. If you have a passion, you have a purpose. Some of the points she made, that's the reason why I respect her so much, is she made honest, valid points. And it's not, her section is not very long, but it has meaning. It talks about meaning. And I know that when our next book comes out, when we're gonna definitely dive more into her life and more into her future. And I know it's raw, it's honest, but we that's what we want. We don't want people to see us as these fake people. We want them to understand that we struggle too. We have issues. We're not perfect. I mean, yesterday in the car, like a song came on the radio. I just started bawling because I'm like, I'm going through some stuff. We all are. This whole
Mhm.
world's going through stuff. It doesn't. No one is perfect among us. No one is more better than the other person. If you all have to realize we're all broken. And Tiffany,
Yeah.
in her sections of the books that she's written with me, shares a very honest life. with how she's done things, how she's talked with God, everything. So I really respect that about you. Um, so moving forward, we're talking about a new collaboration. We're talking about, what's the future is going to hold for us. I do think there'll be more podcast episodes with you in
Yeah.
the future with the new book, if there is one. We're still talking.
Yeah.
No one told us to this yet. We're still talking about it. But I do think there's going to be more collaborations because you and me
Yeah.
have this energy, and people realize we have this energy, and they're still buying our books. I still see like KDP, the thing I use to monitor everything, is still like people are buying it daily. So like that's great. Um, but Tiffany, I want to ask you real quick. Before we get closer to the end of the show, what what is your mindset on, like, how I ask this? What is your mindset towards, the future? Like you've done so much. I just saw you just tagged me in something today where, showing how you strive to our better future. What is your mindset looking forward to the future? Like what are your futuristic goals now that you've accomplished some things you've already wanted to accomplish? What are your next steps?
So I have so much. I have so much that I'm planning for. You know, the podcast is actually going to be a couple years in the future. And then, it just kind of went right into my lap. And I was like, you know what, we're going for it. Um, but I'm going to be honest with y'all. I'm going to finish college soon for aesthetics. And my goal is to have my own skincare brand soon within the next couple years that I am fully set on this, and I'm not saying the name because I'm afraid someone will take it. So but yeah, I'm so excited for that. I just have so much. I'm hoping that I'll have a better situation, possibly opening my own salon. All this is just like what I want in my future. I want to, continue, collaborating with you, Joel, and everything else, continuing to grow as a person. And I'm just so excited. Like, whenever I say I have so much, my mind constantly runs of what can I do next? What is the next best thing? Let's get it done.
Yeah, and that's where I think you and me, we've talked about this. You and me are kind of alike because our brains are constantly around, what's the next thing I can do?
Yeah.
Where am I moving in life? Because we always want to accomplish more. Not, oh, excuse me. We don't want to accomplish less. We want to accomplish more. And you never want to settle for less. You want to settle for more, not less. And even in your Keeping Faith in the World Hardships, I have looked it over so many times and just read my section, your section. And one thing that blows my mind is we've written 2 books, and I'm not saying the first
I
book was
know.
written with 2 other people. Don't think we just wrote both of them. We've written 2 books, and I can't believe I'm a published author. When people ask me, so what, da da da, I'm like, I'm a published author. I'm a
Yeah.
podcast. I have this business. And people ask me like, wow, that do you feel very accomplished? I'm like, yes, I do, because I've accomplished the things I wanted to do in life. I've accomplished what my goals were.
Mhm.
Um, and the one main goal, I think, was writing that book. And the collaborations I had with you and Charlene and Maddie were great. And then the collaboration I had with just you was awesome. And I feel very accomplished and great, that and happy that I was able to share that opportunity with people who I care about. And in one of the things we've talked about is these collaborations aren't about the money for us. They're not. They're more
No.
about sharing what we've learned in our life and getting that information out there. And actually, I think me and Tiffany have already, talked about this personally, but the Keeping Faith in World Hardships, and it's kind of, I'm keeping the money for Successful Future in until I've talked to Maddie and Charlene some more. But the Keeping Faith in World Hardships, those funds actually go to
Mhm.
a organization called A21, which helps sex trafficked women and men. It's not just towards women. There's actually some men they rescue too, and boys and babies. They rescue them and they bring them in, rehabilitate them, and give them housing and stuff to help them get back on their feet and give them jobs. We believe in giving back. And I know Tiffany, I've talked to
Yeah.
this. I believe in giving back. Tiffany believes in giving back. My business, I give back with my business. I give a lot of free
Mhm.
advice. I do a lot of stuff. And it's like, it's not about the money for us. It's about giving back to the community. And one of the things I really respect is when I asked her about this and said, hey, would you mind if we gave the money away? And she was all ecstatic. She's like, I believe that's what we should do, because it's not about the
Yeah.
money for us. It's We could sell a million some copies and it's still not about the money. It's and yes, some of the profits, if we sold a million copies, would probably go to us towards
Of
the
course.
editing and stuff for a new book and the publishing and stuff. But it's not all about the money. It's about giving people our story and our stories and our points and validation for the work. I mean, people have already, said, "Oh my goodness, like I loved your book." Like, and I'm like, I have a book. Like that's still an odd feeling. And I know you've told me, or like it's such a weird feeling, like
It
saying I
is.
published 2 books. It really is.
Well,
Um,
sometimes I get hit with a, "Can you sign your book?" And I'm like, "Whoa, my book."
and for those listening, there is possibly points where Tiffany's going to be in my area signing books. We haven't nailed it down, but once we get a time and date and stuff, she'll be probably coming down here to one of the local coffee shops or something.
Yeah.
I haven't really gotten anybody nailed in yet, but signing books for Keeping Faith in Moral Hardships, or both at this point. So
Yes. Yeah.
but yeah, no, I really do appreciate you, Tiffany. I think you're a great person. I think you've done a lot in your life and you've struggled a lot, but you have come out on top and you have pushed and you have strived. And I really respect that about you.
Well, I
Um,
really appreciate that. I have enjoyed all our collaborations, and I'm really grateful for us stumbling across. Well, I say stumble, but it was faith or fate, whatever you want to call it, that bring us together. And clearly, there was a reason that we were supposed to collaborate, and it's been such an inspiration, joy, and so many people are like, "Wow, you two very much are a good
mhm.
collaboration."
Yeah, and I like that because I've heard the same thing too, and it's great to hear that, like, someone who I've connected with, not only on a personal sense but professional sense, I can like have a great relationship with, and we have a great, for those who listening, we have a great working relationship because we do a
Mhm.
lot of like collabs, and even in the background we're constantly communicating with each other like different things.
Yeah,
Tiffany's always bouncing ideas off me. She's always asking me for advice on is this sound like a good
yeah,
idea, like branding, is this great, like you think this looks good, and I'm
yeah.
always happy to be her, like, her, I can't think of the word, I'm losing the word, like I'm losing words today, her, like, go-to
Well,
person.
Joel was the first one that, got to see my podcast. I was like, "What you think about this?"
Yeah,
And we
and
were
I wasn't the first to listen to it. I'm pretty sure there was a lot of other people, but as soon as I got it on Spotify, as soon as I was able to listen on Spotify, I like clicked it and listened to it on my drive, and I took 19 minutes out of my day to listen to it, and I just was like trying not to cry and was so blown away with her testimony. And I've heard her testimony. There is who understand. I've heard her testimony, but listening to
Yeah.
her talk about it in a very real sense, to just not just to me but to a bunch of people, was just so amazing. Like I was just like,
It
wow.
was very hard and very scary, but I'm like, "Tiffany,
Look,
you've
you
got
you you
to."
had it, and I told you had
Yeah.
it, and you really did a great job. And honestly, you should be very proud of yourself. The podcast is, I don't know what your stats are, how many people have listened to it, but if you have those stats, you could share them.
I think I'm set at almost 250 views right now
Nice.
and like 100 downloads.
That's awesome. See, and that's,
So,
when I first started out, I didn't have that, and I think it's because my podcast was just, it was weird because I wasn't starting out as like what I am now. I was starting out as like a tech, and then I was like, oh, this is kind of boring. And now I have these guests coming on like Tiffany and people who are going on the show, and the people are listening to them, and they're like, I remember yesterday I had someone on the show, Benjamin, and he was telling me how some of the people I've had on the show have just the information they had was just so good and just so honest and real, and he was really respected me for that. And I love getting people on the show. I love hearing things, different lives. But sometimes I want to have a show like Tiffany's. Sometimes I feel like there needs to be a show like Tiffany's where it's like, you know it's real, it's me, it's like I'm talking to just everybody out there. I'm not just talking, I mean, I talk to everybody out there with my show, but you were like, you could tell it in your voice, you were just like, "M- I'm broken and I want to share
yeah.
this." And that was like, I
Yeah.
love that. I really love that. So,
I
but
would rather be real than, be fake.
yeah, but I'm gonna wrap this up early. I got some stuff I gotta do, and I don't want to like be late to it. But Tiffany, thank you so much for going on the show. It's always a pleasure, and I love that we have such a great relationship, not only professionally but personally. I love that we are still collaborating, and you bounce ideas off me. You're an honest and great person. I really appreciate you, and I really can't wait for your podcast to like just take off, and to the point where people are like, "Oh my gosh, I listened to your show out in public." So,
Yeah. Well, I really appreciate you bringing me on again. And also for your listeners, you guys can check out my podcast on Spotify, Audible, and Amazon Music. No
and
shame plug.
I'm going to be leaving the link to her show in the show notes. So if you want to check out her show before you check out this episode, like during this episode, like you want to click back and forth, definitely do that. I don't care. I got enough views. I would be happy if you checked out her show too. So yeah,
Thank you.
definitely check out Tiffany's show. It will be available in the show notes. And leave a review on her thing and some likes or download whatever you have. I don't know how it works for Apple, but leave a like or a review or something and let her know how you like the show. Tiffany, thank you so much for going on. I look
Thank
forward to
you.
having you on the future.
All right, bye.